Hello everyone. My name is Strange, and I believe that people need to know the truth. You often ask me, is it true that Vladimir Putin is in constant contact with representatives of alien races? Today you will try to figure it out. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, currently the president of the Russian Federation. But how did a boy from a simple family manage to climb so high? It's quite simple: a working brain, good abilities, a drop of luck, and the help of an extraterrestrial race. That's the whole recipe for success. Let's go through the biography of Vladimir Vladimirovich and see when exactly the contact occurred. The future politician was born in Leningrad in 1952. He was the third son in the family, but both of his brothers died before he was born. Vladimir studied at 8-year-old school No. 193 from 1960 to 1965, after which he entered secondary school No. 281, a special school based on a technological institute with a chemical bias, which he graduated from in 1970. Together with his studies, he is studying judo at the local sports club, Turbostroidal. Moreover, he starred as a stuntman in Lenfilm. After that, 17-year-old Vladimir visits the department of the KGB of the USSR in Leningrad, where he wants to enter the service, but after the interview he is turned away, arguing that it would be nice for the young man to first get an in-depth humanitarian education. Actually, he followed this advice, having studied from 1970 to 1975 at the International Department of the Faculty of Law of LSU, and even defended his thesis on the topic, the principle of the most favored nation. And this is strange, because Vladimir has never shown interest in law before, and even more strange is the fact that he has been seen talking to strange people several times. Their arms were disproportionately long, and their eyes seemed to have lost all color. Their skin was grayish, like those who had not seen the sun for a long time. In addition, at this time, some people saw balls of light or other flying objects over the city. Almost immediately, as if sensing someone else's attention, objects rushed up or to the horizon and disappeared from sight. After completing his studies, the future politician was accepted into the KGB, where he served until 1991. He took part in the investigation of the case, initiated over the inscription, "You crucify freedom, but the human soul does not know the shackles," applied to the sovereign bastion of the Peter and Paul Fortress. Vladimir also took training courses for operational personnel and was promoted to lieutenant colonel by seniority. For the last 5 years, he worked in the GDR in foreign intelligence, where UFOs were spotted again. In addition to his main goals, Vladimir also met with various strange personalities, as it was after he was not accepted in the KGB. Perhaps the employee's ambitions began to grow, and he decided to resort to the power of an alien race again. After returning from a business trip to the GDR, he served in the KGB for another year, after which he wrote a report on his dismissal, which, surprisingly, was accepted without problems. Due to acquaintance with Anatoly Sobchak, the future politician became a real politician. Vladimir became his advisor while Sobchak was chairman of the Council of Deputies. Then he became chairman himself when his benefactor became mayor. Such a sharp rise in just 2 years is difficult to explain by simple luck. This is either a very thoughtful plan or someone's help. Help from those whose technologies are superior to those of Earth, and who are able to give an advantage to their henchmen. For another 5 years, Putin's brilliant career in Leningrad remained that way, but in 1996 Sobchak lost the election, and the Leningrad career of a politician ended there. However, the guests with UFOs did not leave their henchmen. This year, there were several more reports of the appearance of unidentified objects over Leningrad and Moscow, and already in 1997 Putin received an offer from Moscow. He is offered the position of Pavel Bordin's deputy, managing the affairs of the president. A year later, Vladimir is appointed director of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, where he is awarded the rank of colonel. What a dizzying success, isn't it? A year later, his place of appointment changes again. Now he is the secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, and with the preservation of his previous post. Needless to say, he put his friends from different life stages as his deputies, or maybe he put those whom his benefactors pointed out to him. UFOs were spotted more than once or twice over the Kremlin. Often, they did not stay for long. But the future president himself then made a new fateful decision for him. Having proved his reliability and usefulness in many ways, he achieved what he wanted. In 1999, he became acting president, and a year later he won the election, gaining about 52% of the vote without any problems. And again, the event is very strange, because then there were many other candidates, no less and not more strong. However, here too, a long-standing meeting with UFOs plays into Vladimir's hands. He seems to know exactly what the people want to hear from him and says exactly that, which in turn brings him the presidency already twice in a row. For the second time, he has already won 71% of the votes, which shows us that the possibilities for extraterrestrial assistance are extremely wide. In 2000, a series of terrorist acts began in Chechnya and later in Russia. Having missed the beginning of the disaster, and having made a serious mistake when terrorists seized the theater center on Dubrovka, and with it 900 hostages. During the operation, all the terrorists were destroyed, but 125 hostages were also killed, who were poisoned by gas used by special forces. This time, the guests with UFOs again helped their henchmen, but even this intervention only allowed to reduce the number of civilian casualties, although all the terrorists were quickly destroyed. Only 5 years later, during the SSB operation, Elon, the leader of the militants, was eliminated. The hard war, which even the help of aliens did not help to get out of without losses, was over. Along with this, reforms were also carried out in the country, which had a very specific direction: complete subordination to a single person. Since 2004, the heads of regions have been selected by legislative assemblies from the list submitted by the president himself, and the opposition has been squeezed out of the State Duma. A state subordinate to one person, who in turn is subordinate to his cosmic benefactors. Probably this is the price for their support and assistance on the president's life path. Moreover, he appointed to more or less important positions only those whom he personally trusted. These are his colleagues, fellow students at the university and colleagues from work in Leningrad, which proves once again that Vladimir Vladimirovich is building a state subordinate only to him, and in fact to an alien race that recruited him even before joining the KGB. On the other hand, the economy that was virtually dead at the time of the 1990s was brought back to its feet and reanimated by his own efforts. Reducing poverty, increasing foreign investment in the country, and so soon Russia's admission to the World Trade Organization cannot be called anything but a miracle. By a miracle from friends from distant stars, of course. UFOs have been seen over the Kremlin many times since Vladimir Putin took office as president. And time after time, soon after their appearance, a new bill or plan was created that somehow improved the life of the country or its president. And sometimes, both at once. Foreign policy has also come under our attention. Since 2001, the rapprochement between Russia and the United States has begun. The creation of an anti-terrorist coalition was only the first step. Partial opening of airspace closure and disbandment of military bases in Cuba and Vietnam. It would seem that the countries' relations are getting stronger. But here the United States unilaterally withdraws from the Treaty on the Limitation of Missile Defense Systems. Russia is withdrawing from the NSC and replaces it with the softer one. But what could have caused such a sharp move on the part of the United States? They found out about those who helped the president and considered both them and the country a threat that should be destroyed. From that moment on, relations between the countries only heated up, which resulted in various, including armed conflicts. It is not known exactly who is helping the president of the Russian Federation, but this race is definitely ahead of Earth, both in the development of society and in terms of technology. But with the current situation in the world, perhaps even their assistance will be useless. Princess Diana, aka Diana Frances Spencer, a woman who undoubtedly had a great influence on both the royal family and the entire British society. Born on the 1st of July 1961 in the family of the 8th Earl Spencer, Diana was the fourth of 5 children in the family. However, her early years are hardly happy. Physical abuse from her father towards her mother, her parents' divorce when she was 7 years old. Her education can also not be called successful. Diana changed schools several times and twice failed exams to obtain a certificate of general education. And in general, she studied at the institute only for a semester. However, she was engaged in self-study and got many, albeit low-paid jobs, such as kindergarten teacher, cleaner, and nanny, which allowed her to gain versatile experience. In 1977, Diana meets Prince Charles for the first time. 3 years later, they meet again, And then Diana begins to attract the prince's attention. And in 1981, Charles proposed to Diana. The wedding took place in the same year. That's the first oddity. How did Diana, a very modest girl, according to the memoirs of Mary Robertson, whose family she worked as a nanny, attract the attention of the prince, the first heir to the throne, being already 12 years younger than him? Was it an accident, Charles's questionable moral qualities, or something else? In addition, the question arises, why did Diana study at the Wildnet Institute, a boarding school for girls in the municipality of Rogemont, Switzerland, for only a semester? Was it her laziness, inability to learn, or did she just find what she was looking for? Even if I wasn't looking for it on purpose. They say she sometimes went somewhere and was absent for several hours, and after returning she looked very spiritual. Some said that they saw Diana meeting strange people. Their skin was an unhealthy gray shade, their limbs were thinner, and they moved as if in jerks, as if someone was trying to control a puppet without knowing how. Sometimes Diana came back with objects wrapped in something, and sometimes people saw condensation trails in the sky shortly before the future princess went somewhere again. But let's return from Diana's apprenticeship to her family life, which is also difficult to call happy. Despite an extremely successful marriage, as well as 2 healthy sons, the relationship between the princess and Charles was far from ideal. The gap of 12 years affected, as well as the difference in character, caused discord and betrayal of both to each other. Even if the problems of the spouses surfaced, some things remained out of sight of the general public. It is believed that it was the unhealthy atmosphere inside the family that caused Diana's suicidal impulses, but there is also an excellent opinion. It is said that the princess, who once stopped her mysterious walks for the duration of her marriage, resumed them when the relationship gave the first serious crack, and, judging by the testimony of eyewitnesses, as if not of her own volition. Also, a few witnesses speak of objects that soared into the sky from the garden of Kensington Palace under the cover of darkness. Is it possible that Diana's self-destructive impulses were not at all because of a crumbling relationship, but because of, say, an unfulfilled task? Some kind of mission that Diana received in exchange for her success from those strange people, if they could be called people, of course. But let's go back to the official history. Diana and Charles divorced in 1996. This was preceded by numerous mutual accusations from each side, and attacks from the public, again on both. In addition to Diana receiving £17 million, £34 million at the current exchange rate, and the separation of custody of the children, the former spouses also signed a confidentiality agreement in which it was forbidden to discuss the details of the divorce and family life. Was this done to prevent the possibility of social pressure, or did Diana and Charles witness something that they simply could not tell about? Perhaps the Princess of Wales did not hide her connection with the alien well enough, which was the real reason for the split in the family and further divorce, and the royal family simply decided not to take the trash out of the hut. However, Diana herself, despite the divorce, remained a member of the royal family as the mother of a possible heir. And even though she lost the title of Her Royal Highness, she retained the title of Princess of Wales. But this concerns her family life. But what about public life? Even before her marriage, Diana participated in the ceremony of taking out the banner in 1981, although at that time she was not a member of the royal family. In the same year, but after the wedding, she attended the opening ceremony of the Parliament with her husband. In 1982, Diana goes to the funeral of Grace, the 10th Princess of Monaco. Charles was against this trip, but the princess didn't care much. Is it possible that the funeral was just an excuse for another contact and receiving new instructions from alien forces? Almost nothing is known about this. In the same year, already in November, Diana was in the Netherlands on state affairs, where she received the Order of the Crown from Beatrix, the Queen of the country. Interestingly, this badge of distinction is awarded to foreigners who especially distinguish themselves in the service of the King, Queen in our case, the Netherlands and his house. How Diana was able to serve the Dutch crown in this way remains a question. However, perhaps she did not serve the royal family at all, but their common patrons from distant stars, and the Order of the Crown was just a way to emphasize that Diana fulfilled her mission well. Unfortunately, the Crown's affairs will remain that way if we won't know the truth. Further years, up to the divorce, are also filled with trips to various countries for the purpose of recreation or to attend important events. For the most part, Diana paid attention to visiting hospitals and projects that were related to healthcare and aimed at the development of women. A great way to raise your popularity in society, as well as collect data. If its alien patrons are, of course, interested in studying humans as a species, then data on our biological structure would be very useful to them. Even after the divorce, Diana continued her trips, the first of which was a visit to Nepal and a local hospital for patients with leprosy. Leprosy, simply put, with whom she met, communicated, and held their hands, continuing to gain points of social popularity. Diana also announced events dedicated to the 25th anniversary of the British Red Cross at the end of 1994. Diana, the Princess of Wales, died in 1997 on August 31 in a car accident in the tunnel near the Alma Bridge. Along with her, her new lover, Dodi Al-Fayed, with whom she lived in the south of France for the last months of her life, also died, as well as the driver, Henry Paul. Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rez-Jones, survived, but due to a serious head injury, he cannot remember the details of the accident. Actually, a very sad outcome of a very good person. Maybe the fault of the accident was an oversight of the mechanics. Maybe it was Henry Paul's mistake, that he did not keep track of the road, or maybe Diana just became dangerous or simply did not need her alien benefactors. The answer to this question is stored only in the head of Trevor, who, according to his own words, forgot all the details of the accident and therefore cannot tell anything. However, whatever happened in the tunnel and whatever purpose Diana pursued, her influence on our society cannot be overestimated. 907 charity visits. That's how much Princess Diana has done in her entire life. It generated interest and attracted public attention to serious diseases, such as leprosy or AIDS. She became the patron of many charitable foundations that help the homeless, children, youth, people with drug addiction, the elderly. After becoming a patron of the British Red Cross, she came to the Royal Hospital almost weekly to support the seriously ill and dying. Her contribution to charity cannot be overestimated. Perhaps Diana did not do it all from a pure heart, perhaps even at someone's behest, and for the benefit of alien forces, but she did it. Her foundations have helped a huge number of people, and will help even more. Her activities have made the problems of people with serious illnesses more obvious. There is no difference whether Diana was a contactor or not. She was an outstanding person, and that's enough.
Today, as 3 days ago, Kate was returning from political science classes from the London School of Economics and Political Science. It's funny, but at the same university she lectured on Roman law twice a month. Did she like it? I think so. A young girl, by the standards of the imperial family of the hereditary kings and queens of England, was driving along the avenue opposite Piccadilly Circus. Big Ben towered a little in the distance with its white dial. A silver Pontiac raced down the avenue. The driver, as always, was respectable and silent. Everything went as usual, according to the plan. But all this is deadly boring. The girl's sense of duty struggled with a sense of rebellion and a desire for dramatic changes. I was tired of everything and just wanted to relax. Today, right now. Although the thought of it was vague. It was cluttered with blocks of urgent and mundane plans. The driver looked ahead, but at the same time followed the protocol of the schedule and etiquette. Ms. Middleton, we are expected at the University of the Arts Museum in half an hour. Have you forgotten? The girl broke away from her thoughts, turned away from the window and smiled. Thank you, Charles. I remember, but my plans have changed somewhat. We'll go to the museum in an hour. I think I'll make it before the ceremony ends. But... The girl smiled. Charles, you and I are friends. Be a benefactor to me. The girl was smiling and pouting like a little child. Come on, Charles, please. The 50-year-old man shook his head condescendingly. The girl interpreted this gesture in her own way. Thank you, Charles. Take me to Central Park. I'll only be there for 1 hour, and you, my dear, will wait in the parking lot. Okay? The driver silently turned off the avenue towards the central London park. It wasn't far to go. At that moment, the driver did not think about the wishes of Princess Kate Middleton. Her wishes did not concern him. In the end, he personally carried out her orders. In parallel with this action, the events of a completely different moment unfolded, inextricably linked with Princess Kate Middleton. In the traffic, literally 200 meters from Pontiac, an unremarkable Citroen was driving, in which 3 young men dressed in tracksuits were sitting. The cut was almost the same, but the suits had different colors of dark shades. The driver stared ahead, keeping a sharp eye out for the princess's Pontiac. The tone was casual and phlegmatic, not expressing alarm. The object turned to the northwest, the intersection of Cromwell and King George Streets. One of the men in the back seat approached the driver. "Don't draw attention. Keep your distance. Do not lose sight of it." The third man chuckled but didn't say anything out loud. He took out a notebook and wrote with a fountain pen. "Is the baby going for a walk?" He received a nod in response. It was not supposed to talk about this. Most likely the car was equipped with a wiretap for control. It was necessary to be careful. The three young men were active agents of the SAS Special Forces, now specializing in the protection of representatives of the royal family. These three guarded and ensured the control of Princess Kate Middleton. The briefing was short, the order was given verbally, but the commander then warned them quite specifically. Failure to comply with the order is equivalent to treason with all the ensuing consequences. However, these three were professionals. Others would not have been hired for such a job. The Citroen turned off at a street intersection and raced after the Pontiac. "Stop at the main entrance. I'm on general surveillance and you two spread out and carefully guide the object. Do not approach, do not attract attention." The two guys nodded. A few minutes later, one of them depicted an athlete performing simple exercises right on the lawn of a park near vacationers picnicking on blankets. The second one bought himself a hot dog and coffee, walked slowly along the sidewalk. A portable mini speaker was built into the sunglasses. "The object is 50 meters away from me. Turn to the pedestal of King Arthur. I'm following. I continue to observe." Kate was unaware of the presence of hidden guards. She thought that this issue had been resolved once and for all at the family council. She swore to be careful and obey the duty of a member of the royal family. The crown princes and the queen smiled and nodded their heads, but they had their own opinion on all this. Kate has been married for a long time, but apparently the bond of marriage with Prince William was not so much a sign of love as the same fulfillment of duty in strengthening the royal family and the birth of heirs. Kate shook her head. Family. A warm, kind word that sometimes presses like a rock. It's all very difficult. Kate increasingly felt the approach of depression. At first she struggled, tried to distract herself, immersed herself in work, classes and raising children. Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. Kate stood near the pedestal of King Arthur. Still, a little disguise did its job. She arrived on an inconspicuous Pontiac, tied a colorful greenish handkerchief on her head. She wore large sunglasses. No one recognized her except one person. A tall young man, no more than 25 years old, approached the pedestal from the sycamore alley. He was smiling. He came and stood next to Kate, also looking at the pedestal. He was silent. From the outside, it might seem that just two strangers are looking at the monument, studying it, getting aesthetic pleasure. One of the guards, the one who had recently been doing exercises and was now washing at the drinking fountain, pressed a thin laryngophone to his neck. A tall young man approached the object at 12 o'clock. The green code. Get ready. Kate and the guy who came looked at the monument for a few minutes. Then the guy turned on his toes and walked deeper into the park to the rides, some of which were not working. At the moment, this was the most unvisited part of the park. The amusement program opened only 2 hours later. Kate stood for a few more minutes and then also walked in the direction where the tall guy had gone. One of the guards followed, keeping his distance, but the unexpected happened. He felt a slight prick in the small of his back, took hold of his back in surprise, and a child ran in front of him, as if from under his arm. He turned around, smiled, pointed, and said, "Bang, bang." Consciousness began to fog up. "Steven, Rob, the injection. I'm losing consciousness. Object." The security guard driver, who remained in the car, jumped out in a second, almost knocking over a couple strolling along the sidewalk. The second guard walked briskly to the pedestal and ran behind it, from where stone-paved paths led to the attractions. "The object has gone out of sight." It sounded in the earpiece. "Restore surveillance. I'll be coming in from the edge of the park in 5 minutes. The gathering point at the pedestal." "What's wrong with Quint?" "I don't care what's wrong with him. There are people around. Restore surveillance." 10 minutes later, both guards were breathing heavily at the pedestal. They didn't find Kate, nor did they find the tall guy. "She's gone. She disappeared into the water." "I see. What are we gonna do, Rob?" 15 minutes later, 2 helicopters were flying over the park. The usual walking and sightseeing Robinsons, but with a very specific purpose: to track the flow of people entering and leaving the park. Landmarks were given. Photo and video equipment with identification mode was installed on the helicopters. Those who walked in the park could also note the large number of quadricopters sweeping over the area. In the depths of the park, Kate and the guy joined hands. They hugged. "Harry, I've missed you so much." The guy put his finger to the girl's lips and did not let her finish. "Kate, today I want to tell you about myself. Everything, and to the end. You'll figure it out for yourself." Kate followed the guy trustingly, who was leading her by the hand. She did not realize how this handsome man could do this, speak and act exactly as she would like, at the right time, at the right moment. He talked, walked, even breathed the way she wanted. My head was clouded with feeling. Was it love? Kate didn't know. "What are you thinking about, dear? Don't think about your feelings, just trust me." The girl was following the guy. She didn't know where. I was just walking. It seemed to her that he was reading her mind. "Honey, look at your feet." Kate looked down, and instead of a stone paving stone, she saw a rainbow shimmering with different colors. "Don't be afraid, dear, trust me. Follow me." The last sentence sounded imperious. There was metal and strength in the voice. "Go ahead." Quint, Stephen, and Rob were unable to give specific explanations about where the object had gone. The case was leaked to the media and became public. Various theories and speculations were built about the disappearance of the princess. The husband and family members did not comment on the situation in any way, putting forward a very definite version. There was a closed trial within the command ranks of the Special Forces. The treason case has not been published or made public. It's just that Quint, Stephen, and Rob have ceased to exist. After a 12-hour interrogation, Princess Charles's driver testified that he occasionally took Kate on some dates, but with whom he did not know. Charles was sent to the same place as the special agents of the SAS who could not cope with the protection of one of the first persons. Kate was asleep and awake at the same time. People, events, and landscapes were changing in front of her. Everything was fine. My heart was calm and my soul was filled with euphoria. In those moments, she felt free, happy, and in love. Harry was there, holding her hand. "You're safe. Don't be afraid of anything." Kate smiled and looked at me with loving eyes. She was surrounded by a subtle aura of a barely perceptible gas cloud. This was the reason for euphoria and happiness. She whispered, "Who are you, Harry? Where are you from? You won't understand." Kate felt herself falling asleep. The dream was deep, black, and dreamless. Harry stood in a bright room and waited. He had a very specific plan dictated by forces much more powerful than all the power structures of the planet Earth combined. A bluish glow began to appear on the white wall of the room, distributed in flashes. The blue flashes were rapidly replaced by yellow and green, mottled, sparkled, and hissed like lit sparklers. Suddenly, the surface of the white wall pulled in and disappeared. Instead of flashes, there were flying lights of stars, the dark blue of space, flying comets, and in front of them, a creature. More precisely, the head of the creature. Judging from the point of view of anthropomorphic science, it was quite an ordinary head, but the rest of the features belied the human appearance. Blue skin, wide-set eyes, no lips, and strong open teeth. Yellow eyes with greenish feline pupils, a hooked nose. The creature was talking to Harry.
Disgusting disguise.
Harry snapped his fingers and appeared in front of the creature in his natural form. The same bluish skin and yellow eyes.
My apologies, Supreme. I am ready to listen to your commands.
The creature did not express emotions. The cosmic landscapes were changing behind his back, full of brightness and shaded by movement.
We've canceled the plans for a swift invasion. We need their bodies. How is the woman's treatment going?
Harry sat down on the floor and ran his finger over the white surface. With this gesture, he expressed respect, in accordance with the etiquette of the society of their planet.
Everything is going according to plan. Your choice is perfect. This woman is popular among the members of their rule instructions. I'll do it right. After 72 hours of Earth time, I have planned the introduction of anatomical control.
The creature blinked its eyes, sticking out a long forked tongue between its teeth.
I am canceling the implementation of control. The experimental pseudo-intelligent creatures from their planet do not tolerate interference. Their vital coefficient is too weak. Act externally and with substances. I allow multiple sexual contact.
Harry got up from the floor and bowed.
Is processing also carried out in other divisions of their planet?
The creature nodded, and a moment later, a white wall appeared in front of Harry again.
Today I want to tell you about a burning topic. At the same time, ask a question. Did you know that Donald Trump, who is currently running for president of the United States, is not as clean in his hand as many people think? Oh no, I'm not talking about bribery right now, and not about raping maids or anything like that. It's much more serious here. Who knows? Perhaps this little-known fact may pose a threat to all of us. The CIA and the NSA, National Security Agency, have long been hiding the truth about contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations from the world. The current Zone 51 still gathers a considerable amount of rumors and theories around it. And believe me, it's not unreasonable. Only few people realize, and even more so, says that Donald Trump was one of the few presidents in the whole world who is associated with aliens, and who clearly communicates with them to this day. Besides, I'm pretty sure he made some kind of deal with them. Unfortunately, even here my worldwide network of informants is not unlimited. But even so, I think you'll be curious to know what one of my spies found a month ago. Gregor, name changed of course, was surprised himself. The information he received from NSA employees was so shocking that he wanted to resign. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I managed to dissuade him. Before I tell you about Trump's contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, I want to invite you to plunge a little into his childhood. Thanks to this, you will be able to see that everything is not as simple as it seems at first glance. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946 in New York City. The years of his birth are associated with the time of the so-called baby boom. At the time of Donald's appearance, Fred and Mary's parents, along with their eldest children, 9-year-old Marion, 7-year-old Fred, and 4-year-old Elizabeth, lived on Wareham Street in the Jamaica neighborhood. Fred Trump, 1905 to 1999, was an investor who was interested in the construction of housing and other infrastructure facilities. Donald's mother, Mary, 1912 to 2000, was a housewife, engaged in volunteer activities, helping the Jamaica Hospital. At the age of 5, Trump became a student at Q Forest Hill School, Queens. There he also became friends with Peter Brandt, the son of another influential businessman. Both excelled outside of school, successfully participating in sports and various game disciplines. They were fans of the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team. During the summer holidays, the Trump family traveled to Florida, staying at the Fontainebleau Hotel. During his school years, Trump was known as a naughty child. He and Peter had to stay after school more than once. At the age of 13, Donald's parents sent him to the New York Military Academy in the hope of channeling his energy and self-confidence in a positive direction. It worked. Trump attended an academy in upstate New York. He received Academy Awards, played on football teams in 1962 and 1963, and on the baseball team in 1962 to 1964. He was the team captain in 1964. Young Donald was interested in geometry and the basics of business. I dreamed of following in my father's footsteps. In addition, the young man was very fond of astronomy and always asked questions such as, "Is there life on Mars?" Sometimes his hobbies in space remained without much attention from teachers and some peers. But for some reason, Donald stubbornly continued to search for his own truth. "It always seemed to me that something unknown was pulling me there to the stars," he writes in his memoirs. The entrepreneur's genes, as well as his energy, allowed the young Donald Trump to get a job at his father's company and successfully earn his first big money for conducting successful transactions. But not everything was as smooth as it seems now. At first sight. Interesting fact? On June 16, 2016, at his headquarters located in the Trump Tower skyscraper in Manhattan, when officially announcing his intention to become a Republican presidential candidate, the future politician very cleverly but subtly noticed the following: "I will be the greatest president God has ever created." And he wasn't lying. Only now created by God or by those whom many fear but also expect. It is possible that the transcript of the military intelligence report of April 6, 1946, will help us shed some light on the involvement of aliens in the birth of Donald on our planet. Don't be so surprised. And believe me, there's still a lot we don't know about what and where aliens might actually be involved. The report reads, at 4 in the morning, an unidentified flying object was spotted in the sky over New York in the Jamaica area. The chief of staff of the district was ordered to take 4 P-51 Mustang fighters into the air. The wingman of the squadron noticed in the sky, as he said, a rounded disc floating in the air. The persecution began, but the disc soared vertically upwards and disappeared from sight. The eyewitnesses of this incident were told the story that all this was a demonstration of new military developments. Unfortunately, there were those who did not believe in this explanation. Rumors immediately spread around the area about the imminent attack of the Martians on our state. Anyway, we had to shut our mouths to those who disagree with the official version. I consider the report finished. I have the honor. Deputy Chief of Staff of the Military District of New York, George Martin Douglas. This secret transcript raises a lot of questions. In particular, 1. What did the aliens need in the city? 2. Why were they hanging right above the place where the young and not yet influential Trump family lived? Unfortunately, there are no answers, but we do know for sure Donald Trump may indeed have something to do with aliens. At least they are directly related to him. Throughout his life and his career, Trump has been lucky. That's what ordinary people think. But what if I say that he has some kind of superpower to secretly take over people's minds? Otherwise, how can we explain that Donald succeeded at a young age where anyone else would have failed? Don't you believe it? Then here's another fact of indirect alien interference in the fate of their ward. Who he is, my team of secret specialists and I are absolutely sure of this. Up until the start of the race for his presidency, Donald Trump existed quietly and peacefully in his financial world. But suddenly, out of the blue, he decides to run for president. Of course, Donald has always been prescribed impulsiveness in actions. But this man learned how to make money in his youth. So, why would he need political influence if practically the entire financial world of the United States was already under his control? An article of the New York Times, dated January 20, 2017 reads as follows. The inauguration of the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, took place. According to Trump himself, the traditional solemn speech was prepared by him independently, without the help of speechwriters. The key point of the speech of the 45th President of the United States is the statement on the establishment of a new financial and political course for America for many years, aimed at restoring the country's economic power. It is noteworthy that on that day in Washington, several bright streaks flashed in the night sky. Apparently, the Lord God himself really decided to rejoice for his faithful Christian follower, who noticed these phenomena in the sky and even waved at them. This applies to official media sources, but I managed to blackmail one of the NSA employees into commenting on this case, and that's what he told me.
I hope this is the last time I help you, Strange. At this rate, I'm going to jail for treason. As for those stripes, there were 3 UFO objects. Our radars detected them, but we didn't even have time to get our air forces into the air. They were here, but they disappeared immediately. It is very ironic that this happened on the day our country gained a new president.
From the information received, the conclusion suggests itself. Donald Trump is working closely with someone outside our planet. We can only guess what kind of cooperation is being carried out. I'll try to get to the truth, and I will do it, no matter who it costs me. Today, I will tell you about the world-famous pop singer Britney Spears and how she was influenced by guests from other planets. Britney was born on December 2, 1981 in Macomb, Mississippi. Her parents were Lynn Iron, a former teacher, and James Parnell, a construction worker by profession. Unlike many other famous personalities, Britney's contact with extraterrestrial intelligence did not occur in childhood, but much later, in 2021, when Spears was finally removed from custody. Let's take a closer look at this case and its consequences. There are a few universally recognizable icons like Britney Spears in the annals of pop culture. Bursting onto the scene in the late 1990s with the debut single, Baby One More Time, she soon became the undisputed queen of pop music. Her catchy melodies, rousing performances, and carefully crafted public image have made her an idol for millions. However, in 2021, an event occurred that was so fantastic that its participant always became connected with the stars, not only metaphorically, but also literally. In the summer of 2021, Britney, who had recently felt the fruits of her newfound freedom after a high-profile and controversial struggle for personal custody, sought salvation away from the public spotlight. She took refuge in the calm deserts of Nevada. Britney has always been fascinated by the stars, often mentioning the constellations in her music and personal messages on social media. But what she faced not only changed her view of the stars, but her entire existence. According to her previously unpublished diary entries, one warm night the calm of the desert was disturbed by a bright, pulsating light descending from the heavens. At first, Britney mistook it for an annoying paparazzi drone, but when the light approached and illuminated her with a dazzling brilliance, she realized that this technology was not of earthly origin. In front of her was an apparatus of clearly alien origin. The pop icon later described the creatures that appeared as ethereal and kind, with facial features clouded by an iridescent aura, making them difficult to perceive with the human eye. They communicated not with words, but with melodies that resonated in Britney's musical soul, as if they were speaking the universal language of music itself. During what would later be called the heavenly event of 2021 on Earth, Britney Spears experienced an encounter with these creatures that forever changed the course of her life. They gave her the opportunity to look into the vast canvas of the cosmos, laying in her a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of everything musical and spiritual. She was shown visions of galaxies, where each star was a note in a universal symphony sounding through space-time, a place where music was not created, but simply existed as a fundamental form of being. Britney became a conduit through which this heavenly music could be interpreted and given to humanity. When she returned to the earthly world, she discovered that her artistic expression had changed irreversibly. She began to create music that was strange but familiar, alien but earthy, complex but intuitive. Her melodies crossed the boundaries of languages and cultures, touching the souls of all who listened to them, reflecting the harmony of the universe. But great power entails great responsibility, and Britney knew she had to share this gift carefully. After all, this music had a powerful effect, directly connecting listeners to the cosmic network, and such experiences could be profound and revolutionary. Is it possible to imagine that an ordinary evening turned into the most unusual in Britney's life, and thus into a new chapter of humanity's understanding? The Princess of Pop became, in fact, the ambassador of the Space Orchestra, and her next performance could be the most important act in her life. On the night of her first performance after the heavenly event, the whole world held its breath. She stepped onto the stage, a lone figure against the backdrop of 1,000 twinkling lights. When the first notes spilled out of the speakers, it became clear that something had changed dramatically. The audience was enchanted, transported to places beyond their imagination, when her voice would intertwine between reality and something more sublime. But among the amazement were those who were afraid of change, who whispered that Britney Spears was no longer just a pop culture icon, but had become something else, something more. As the concert continued, many emotions were reflected on the faces of the crowd: delight, joy, catharsis. People danced, cried, and even in the most vulnerable moments, held out their hands to strangers next to them, connected by the universal language of Britney's new music. The music industry, which never backs down in the face of phenomena, has tried to understand the source of Britney's transformation. But how do you measure magic? How to commercialize the message reflected from the stars? The answer remained elusive, and perhaps it was for the best. Britney's music became a beacon of hope in a world that often seemed clouded by uncertainty. Her concerts weren't just events. They became general healing sessions, leaving visitors deeply changed and longing for more as they began their own paths to understanding the depths of music and themselves. This unprecedented phenomenon has forced scientists and spiritual leaders to explore new frontiers of human consciousness. Britney unwittingly initiated a movement that crossed the boundaries between science and religion, sparking dialogues that may one day bridge the gap between these often divided disciplines. Thus, the mystical journey of a pop star has become a quest for humanity itself, encouraging us to listen not only with our ears but also with our hearts, and perhaps finally hear the music of the spheres. And that night, under the vault of an infinitely black sky, eavesdropped by the stars, a transcendent transformation took place, not only of the singer but also of everyone present. It was more than enlightenment, it was rebirth. Those who shared this space and time with her witnessed a rebirth. Each song felt like a piece that was written not for the stage, but for the soul itself. Britney's voice reflected the depth of cosmic energy, a power that could touch Z's heart and convince his mind. Critics and skeptics might call it a phenomenon that was predetermined by experimental sounds and light shows, but those who were there knew the truth. These were not just sounds. It was the call of an ancestor that was slumbering in every human soul, waiting for the moment of awakening. And when the veil fell and the hall was empty, there was only an echo of what swept through like a whirlwind of feelings. But it was clear to everyone in the crowd. They were participating in a story, part of which will now forever live on in their own stories, their memories, and the songs that they will hum, feeling nostalgic for the sensations that Britney once gave them. That evening, music did not just unite the masses, it revived the ancient understanding that art and music are integral components of the human soul. Now, thanks to Britney, generations will look for connections, not only among themselves, but also with what is beyond our understanding. Sultry, Red Africa, Pretoria. I was 7 or 8 years old then. I don't remember exactly. I was walking home from school and suddenly, in a narrow alley between Madame Wilson's grocery and the corner of Peter Baumung's car workshop, I met the 3 of them. And I knew they might be there. I know anyway. Godo Anal, Balthazar Perik, and Azaz Burma. 2 black Africans from the newcomers who did not care deeply about apartheid and everything connected with it. And Balthazar is a descendant of Portuguese immigrants. Where are you scratching, brat? A thin, nimble, and toothless Godo jumped up to Ilona and snatched a leather case bag from his hands. Give it back, Godo. The boy stretched out his arms, but was immediately grabbed by the tall Azaz. Balthazar watched from the sidelines and grinned until Godo handed him the bag. Look, Chief, maybe there's something valuable in there. Perik accepted the bag and opened the zippers, took out the telescope too. Both Negroes eagerly looked at the bag of the telescope and waited for further orders from their boss. What, baby, did you want to see the stars? Give it back. Elon squeaked, his eyes starting to fill with tears. Perik spread his hands dramatically, and the telescope fell to the asphalt, the lenses broke, and the tube rolled down the alley. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I accidentally dropped it. Come on, guys, beat him up so he knows how to enter our alley. Elon Musk shook his head. Did you really doze off? He leaned his hands on the marble countertop of his office. That's the way it is. I was in Pretoria as a child and returned to Hawthorne, California. There was no one here but him. There wasn't a Perik, no Berm. I wonder what they've become. They probably aren't alive anymore. Perik, with his irrepressible character, was stabbed somewhere by dashing people, of whom there were many in South Africa. Burma died in some flophouse from syphilis or AIDS, and Anula was taken away in a police car in front of the whole schoolyard for raping a high school student. Probably became the wife of some big Afrikaner. That's where they go. Elon Musk smiled and rubbed his temples. To the point. 23 years have passed since that ill-fated meeting in the alley. Things couldn't have been better at SpaceX. New orders, new deals, and most importantly, the opportunity to develop science. The only comprehensive and indestructible passion of Elon Musk. Elon pressed the selector button, and the voice of a pretty secretary answered him. I'm listening, Mr. Musk. You like her voice. Elon smiled again. Margie, dear, look at the reports to see if the answers to our claims have come to the Motors and Skyspace plants. And don't schedule an afternoon for anyone. I have a meeting with an authorized representative from NASA. Just a minute, Mr. Musk. I will send the report to your email. The meeting with the plenipotentiary representative did not take place. Another one took place, a landmark one that turned everything upside down, completely changed life. Elon Musk left the glass and concrete building of the SpaceX headquarters, happily sucked in fresh air with his lungs, and headed for a parked car in which his personal chauffeur was waiting for him. He sat down in the back seat as usual, nodded to the driver, and leaned back in his seat. The driver knew the schedule perfectly well, and no adjustments or instructions were followed. Suddenly, the glass to the left of the driver shattered. The driver was thrown to the right, and then his body convulsed. Elon did not even have time to scream as 2 hefty hands pulled the driver's body out of the car, and a hefty man in a black tuxedo and black glasses sat in his place. There was a second man next to Elon. It might have seemed that they were twins, with the one who smartly shook the driver out from under the steering wheel and took his place. What's the matter? What's happening? The car started moving and began to pick up speed. Oddly enough, it was allowed to pass the outer perimeter without any questions. And where did they put the driver? You don't have to worry about that, Mr. Musk. There's nothing wrong with your driver. The man sitting next to him was looking in front of him, although it was not clear from under the dark glasses where he was looking. He kept his hand ostentatiously on his chest holster. What's the matter? Is this a kidnapping? Elon grabbed the door handle and tried to pull it towards him, but immediately felt the stranger's fingers grip his shoulder with an iron grip and pulled it himself. I'll ask you not to do anything stupid. You'll find out soon enough. The car sped through Eagle Gardens at high speed and turned towards Garfield Manor Avenue. Then Elon was blindfolded and helped into the helicopter. The flight lasted about half an hour. At first, Elon counted, tried to memorize the turns, but soon lost his way and decided to just wait for his fate. At this very time, 220 kilometers from Horton, Special Operations Agent John Wojtowicz was waiting for the scientist and genius Elon Musk in a small hunting lodge in the middle of the Palma and Yuma Indian Reservation. Inside the hut with him was a man in a black denim jacket, black jeans, and a beret, with his hands in his pockets. Why should I request the summary again? Wojtowicz was yelling at a man in a black denim jacket. Why does the external surveillance department constantly fail? The man in the denim jacket took off his sunglasses and put them on the table in front of Wojtowicz. I'm not responsible for the reports of the Department of External Observations. The analytical department is currently sorting out the little things received from our northern partners. Wojtowicz became interested. What's up with these former colonies? In the area of Lake Baikal, a fall of an object of extraterrestrial origin was recorded, presumably collapsed directly into the lake. A group of our agents in Russia is being prepared. And the Russians? Now our people are working through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Perhaps they will give us everything they find there. They forgave us Kursk, handed over all the secrets without a fight, and they will hand over this one. Okay, keep your mouth shut, sit down. Wojtowicz took a cigar from a box on the table, bit off the tip and lit it. Do you hear? The noise of helicopter rotors was heard over the hut with an increase. The man in the denim jacket put on his glasses, stood up and adjusted two waist bolsters. You're escorting a smart guy here. You'll stay at the entrance yourself. That's right. 15 minutes later, Elon Musk was sitting at the table in front of Wojtowicz. Let me introduce myself, Mr. Musk. Wojtowicz stood up and held out his hand. I'm an FBI agent, Tomasz Borecki. He specifically introduced himself with one of his fictitious names, which, however, was immediately confirmed by the extended ID. Is this how you kidnap people? Damn it, we live in America. I have rights. Wojtowicz sat down on a chair and coldly looked into the eyes of Elon Musk. You have the right to be executed by me for high treason this very second. But I can offer you another fate. A wave of fear swept down Elon Musk's back, and his chin, covered with uneven stubble, trembled. Musk stared at Wojtowicz's hands, and was afraid to make even a sound. He wanted to go to the toilet unbearably. Relax, Mr. Elon, feel free. Wojtowicz grinned and took a drag on his cigar, blowing smoke right into Musk's face. You are here because our state has a very great interest in you. Do you understand? Elon Musk nodded his head and coughed from the cigar smoke. Wojtowicz took another drag and shouted, Answer as it should be. Musk started up. Yes, I understand everything. Of course, everything that will be shown to you is absolutely confidential. For disclosure, by the way, how is your family? Didn't you just have a son? Yes, and what does this have to do with? Elon Musk looked at Wojtowicz in confusion. Your wife Justine and son will be very upset if suddenly their husband and dad give us a reason to doubt their loyalty. Elon was silent. Wojtowicz looked complacently at the interlocutor in front of him, although he looked more like a defendant before the verdict. However, we will consider the official part completed. Now you will be shown some materials that you will have to study and give a brief oral conclusion. Do you understand? Yes, but what should I do? I don't understand. Wojtowicz took a briefcase from under the table and took out a laptop, opened it, and turned it to Elona. Study the following document and photo materials. I'll leave you alone. Wojtowicz was sitting in the helicopter cabin, opposite a man in a black denim jacket. What do you say, John? I think he's shitting himself. Wojtowicz took a deep drag and blew smoke into the half-open hemisphere on the pilot's side. The man in the denim jacket chuckled. Wojtowicz slammed the half-open hemisphere with force. Let's give him 1 hour. Then we'll have a conversation. By the way, Boris, take a closer look at him. The sky in the palm of your hand project will be supervised by you. Elon Musk was sitting in front of his laptop and at first couldn't believe his eyes. For a moment, it seemed to him that this was all a hoax. His friends or spouse have dumped a lot of money and everything is fake. My gut told me otherwise. In front of him were the notes of a secret report backed up by photographs. During the construction of an underground fortification at a depth of 460 meters in the area of the Alaskan Ridge 63-0, 408 SS-151-0023ZD during the development of rock basalt rock. A colossal underground grotto was discovered by a laser thermal method. The dimensions are being specified. All work has been suspended. The area is cordoned off. A Special Forces platoon has been sent to inspect and explore the grotto at the mouth. When entering the grotto, the Special Forces were attacked by an unidentified enemy. The dead are 11 people. The bodies emit a powerful trace of cobalt radiation in the gamma spectrum. From the preliminary conclusion, the grotto was the base of alien entities. The period of arrangement, staffing, and mode of use has not been established. Currently, the bodies of extraterrestrial aliens, hereinafter referred to as aliens, are being investigated. Preliminary examination of the bodies of strangers did not yield results. There is not enough research capacity. Comparative samples are being selected. From the research of the alien database, the following is clear. Elon Musk's eyes widened, his breathing was shallow. At that moment, he was just afraid to take a full breath. He was looking through photos of the bodies of alien entities found in the grotto. The aliens combined the characteristics of reptiles and humans. Apparently upright, blue-green skin tone, dead cat pupils. In the next photo, the body was located on a huge preparation table opened. Elon's chest and stomach spazzed. He reflexively covered his mouth with his palm and leaned sideways from the table. With an incredible effort of will, Elon restrained his vomiting and continued to study the materials. The grotto, the external protection system, and all the power are controlled by a high-frequency biocomputer. Elon was looking at a photograph showing a large flask, inside which something rested. For some reason, it immediately seemed that was a brain. Not human. It is unknown whose, the size of a car engine. Many sensors branched off from the brain, incomprehensible needles, hundreds of needles, and many unknown devices. The brain was dead now. That was understandable. During the study of the biocomputer, telepathic contact was established with an unknown entity, hereinafter referred to as the curator. Sergeant Instructor of the second class, Audrey Afkaper, came into contact. The contact occurred spontaneously after an attempt to connect a biocomputer to an external energy source. According to the conclusions from the primary telepathic contact, the grotto belongs to an ancient race of alien beings, hereinafter referred to as Nagas. The purpose of the base, its capabilities were not disclosed. In order to further cooperation, a contract was concluded. Terms of the contract for special admission. 2016, Neuralink, San Francisco. Scott, have you prepared the lab test report? A young guy in a white coat with a Neuralink company badge took his eyes off the computer and looked at his boss, stood up. Yes, Mr. Whitman, there are still corrections for errors in the correlation of the digital neuron model. Today, I will receive data from the experimental digital laboratory, and the report will be completed. Whitman nodded his head approvingly and went to his office, turned around at the entrance. There will be data today. I will hurry up the digital engineers. Force the report. Mr. Elon Musk does not like to wait. At the same time, 50 kilometers from San Francisco, Elon Musk was walking and looking around in the laboratory of digital synthesis of neuromodels. Neuromodels were commonly referred to here as hundreds of glass flasks, filled with a neurostimulating solution. There were living people in the flasks, immersed in deep suspended animation. Due to the inability to copy or recreate the found biocomputer to obtain neuroanalytic powers, we requested the help of a curator. As a recommendation, the following information was obtained. The neurons of the brain of human organisms, hereinafter referred to as neuromodels, can be repeatedly enhanced with the help of a substance involved in a neurostimulating solution. To ensure 1 hour of operation of the biocomputer, it is necessary to use 41 neuromodels in constant operation mode. The external connection of neuromodels is carried out by a gold niobium alloy nanocable serial connection of the trepanated brain in the pituitary gland. After the expiration of the power of each neuromodel, 1 hour, the material is disposed of. 2002, Washington. Wadowicz was sitting in his office. He was filled with strange and promising thoughts at the same time. The first of them is that everything he does not belong to the usual earthly world, but belongs to the cloudy, mysterious, incomprehensible, and deadly world. The second thought was more pleasant. It was he who was up to his ears in all this. It was he who decides the fate of not individual people who are subordinate to him, whom he personally recruited and whose destinies he ordered, he decides the fate of humanity. Well, he's not the only one, of course. For the first two thoughts, a third was involuntarily born. The curator, who the fuck is this? The very thought made me shudder. The curator's power was frightening. The power over him, over the Special Investigations Agent, John Wojciech. Obeying an incomprehensible but definite feeling. Wojciech clacked his teeth like a sheepdog, got up and walked around the office. There was a knock on the door. Wojciech twitched, his heart pounding faster. Holy shit, it won't take long to go crazy. Yes, come in. Wojciech quickly walked over to a table littered with stacks of papers, from behind which a computer monitor could be seen. Allow me to report, Mr. Wojciech. Wojciech rubbed his temples. I'm tired of it. Lieutenant, I've told you many times. Come in after permission and get down to business right away. The barracks won't get out of your head in any way. I'm sorry. A brave red-moustached lieutenant, just like from a picture advertisement a la, joined the ranks of the British commandos. A slight noise appeared in Wojciech's head, which threatened to develop into a migraine attack. No, we need to change people. There was just one special operation planned where Lieutenant Blackberry could reveal his talents. Wojciech stood up, defiantly gave a military salute, and said in an imposing tone, "Report back, Blackberry, and as much as possible on the case." The lieutenant pathetically returned the greeting, putting his palm to his temple. At that moment, Wojciech wanted to get his deserter out of the table and empty the entire clip first at the lieutenant, then at the curator, whoever they were, at the president, and then at himself. Today there are 3 operational reports in one report. The lieutenant came up with a chiseled look and put 3 folders and a sheet with an official seal on the table. Okay, leave it. Don't let anyone in to see me. Is that clear? That's right. Wojciech grimaced. No, I'm definitely going to get a migraine today. At that moment, he clearly imagined how the dashing fellows under the command of the lieutenant were dragging sandbags to the door of his office, installing an easel machine gun, providing security so that no one would enter. This thought amused to the point. First, 3 operational reports. It is necessary to give an analytical conclusion on them and send it above. Wojciech understood that there was someone above him too, but the channel of communication and transmission of information was classified. And who is above them? Tudor? Wojciech shook his head. They should have hollowed out that grotto on the Alaskan ridge. They got hemorrhoids for themselves. Damn it. Wojciech took out his perpetually half-smoked cigar and lit it. So, 3 operational summaries in one report. Let's start with the summaries. Wojciech took the first folder and opened it. From the first lines, he picked himself up. The blood rushed to his head. Operational Summary No. 13.907.2002. Secret. For a limited number of persons with a special permit, a group of agents, Special Operations Forces, Beta Unit in Russia, reached the point at 03.00. Equipment and special equipment were delivered to the point by an auxiliary unit from the location, Irkutsk. The last satellite communications session with the commander was at 05.32. Then the group stopped communicating. The study of the object in the area of Lake Baikal, Russia, was not carried out. Presumably the group was destroyed by military units of a potential enemy. From preliminary conclusions, the object has been detected, observed and investigated by the forces of a potential enemy. The mode of research, the probability of contact, and obtaining information are unknown. Baikal is covered, but there was a prospect. Recently, many politicians have noted that these goddamned communists have learned how to work. The year 2002 is in the yard. The days of the idiot Mr. Gorby and Yeltsin are over. Wojciech sighed. He knew these Russians who would rather shit themselves in their pants than retreat. I saw enough of their volunteers in the 90s in Yugoslavia. Wojciech skimmed through the folder, satellite photos, and an analytical explanation. The latter was interesting. Information received by agents in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Presumably the object carried the scientific research function of the Earth's ionosphere. The second folder was heavier. Wojciech opened it. Regardless of his own desire, the agent's eyebrows went up. Summary of data for October 2002, Washington, D.C. The folder contained gibberish, consisting of the testimony of drunks and housewives who told in detail how they copulated with the green men, traveled on their ships, Then they started inserting an elastic probe into my vagina and anus. Shelley Whippet, housewife, 56 years old. The old whore. Well, that's the kind of thing. One even demanded to take his mother-in-law for experiments, saying she was from a distant planet of the constellation Cygnus. Holy shit, this is all handled by the External Surveillance Department. They probably take information from the Oprah Winfrey Show or God knows what garbage dump. Wojciech put down the folder and shouted towards the closed door. "Blackberry, come in. Today we need to give the command to fix the fucking phone. We use such things, but we have to yell." Blackberry came in almost immediately. "No, was he definitely standing at the door and guarding? You weren't. Have you been called?" "No, I was just yelling like that. Today, right now, contact the head of the External Surveillance Department. Let him leave a deputy for himself and come straight here. Tell him that I need an explanation of their operational summary. Don't say anything else." "Understood, Chief." Wojciech looked at the lieutenant in surprise. Something new? Did the moron soldier understand how to communicate with his superiors? Let's see what the head of the IOD, Department of External Observations, says. Through no gate. Okay, this will still need to be studied. Surprisingly, it was the IOD department that was assigned to brief new agents. A kind of Mr. or Miss Smith comes, and they immediately have a folder of documents. Read, be instructed. How many times have I told them to create a detailed educational film, back it up with documents, and eventually send new people to me? No, it all starts with papers on which large pixel photographs from the Second World War, and inert documents, and a summary of the plots from the Issy Stones. Fucking rocks and rocks on which Indians with the alds, like a machine gun, fuck dinosaurs, ride them, and also fuck with some aliens. Having seen such a stone firsthand, Wojciech realized even then that modern Indians in Peru realize that they loved rich gringos and their white bitches, and began to stamp these stones for souvenirs. Maybe there was something, but now the trail is hidden. One scientist in Russia is digging all this, well, let him dig. An eccentric poor man with an unshaven head. The third operational summary. Information from the interrogation of Sergeant Instructor 2nd Class Audrey Kapoor, who was hypnotically, telepathically influenced by a biocomputer, hereinafter referred to as the curator. Wow, was she born in Delhi? Wojciech was surprised. At its core, the former captain, and now a special service agent, was a terrible racist, which he skillfully hid. Are Hindus taken to such positions and awarded titles? However, like any citizens of our great and mother of their colored states, everyone is given a chance. Information about the content of the contact has been analyzed. Currently, the test subject, it must be already a test subject, that have also picked up such a word, is being kept under observation. It demonstrates a state of deep trance, from which it is periodically withdrawn through pain shock, electrical stimulation of brain regions. Upon withdrawal from trance, it becomes possible to take readings, which are interspersed with delirium, at the moment of transition from wakefulness to trance. A brief analytical conclusion before the main conclusion. Audrey Kapoor, hereinafter referred to as the test subject, retained the ability to maintain contact with an alien entity, hereinafter referred to as the curator. The contact is one-sided. The summary is accompanied by illustrations made by the test subject at the moment of maintaining clarity of mind. Wojciech looked through a couple of illustrations, turned the sheets this way and that. On one, a crowd of people, thousands of people, merging together in places, were walking along a cliff and heading straight into the sky towards the sun. Distorted faces, bulging eyes, mouths agape and scream in horror. The second illustration schematically depicted a pile of squares, cubes and rectangles forming a lattice structure. A cluttered image, in the center of which is written, "He will come to revive." That's all. Let them deal with this further. It will be necessary to give this summary to the development. Let them prepare a detailed report and conduct this case throughout. Wojciech took out a notebook and carefully wrote down the letters on a line sheet. Audrey Afgater crossed out, painted over, and wrote again. Test subject, medium, connection with the curator. Wojciech lit another cigarette and got up from the table. He went to the window. There was a thunderstorm on the horizon. Huge, dark clouds. Sometimes echoes of lightning flashed by. Wojciech massaged his temple. The weather is changing, so my head is buzzing. At this time, young moms run out into the backyards of their two-story boxes. They got their children and carry them into the house from scattered toys to safety. Some truckers curse their luck and try to get to the motel as quickly as possible before the downpour hits. Some couple is fucking in the backseat of a station wagon. And all these people don't know what's going on in the world. What's next to them right now? Next to them, and with him, with Watowicz. Sometimes a thought appeared in his head, which became more and more intrusive over time. He and all mankind, hooks, communists, Chinese, Negroes, all are in a glass jar and they are being watched. Sometimes someone is taken out, stretched, stupefied with fear, on a table, and methodically cut off the arms and legs like an ant, and sometimes the jar is turned upside down. But he, Watowicz, will get out of this damn jar, figure out the secret, break everyone's horns, like those fucking Serbs in Sarajevo. Who is holding the jar in their hands? The curator. Watowicz pressed his forehead against the cold glass of the window, enjoyed the coolness, and returned to the table. Report. Reliable data has been obtained from operational information that the intelligence forces of a potential enemy, Russia, came into contact with the person 1.01. Elon Musk. Contact was provided through Anne Polyakovich, prostitute, currently being worked out. The contact was established for the purpose of espionage, transfer of top-secret data. Presumably, the pressure on the 1.01 person was exerted through threats to the family, blackmail. Yes, since the early 2000s, the fucking Russian commies have definitely learned how to work. Watowicz read the report to the end, took out a sheet of blank paper. To remove the external threat from the 1.01 person, to give guarantees about the protection of the family, reinstruct and verify loyalty. Perhaps the person 1.01 did not understand the essence of the enemy's intelligence game. Figure out. If voluntary contact is confirmed, take action. Send the analytical conclusion to the contact department for help. The Department of Contacts was called the biocomputer, which was discovered in an underground grotto of the Alaska Range. After Audrey of Cater, the biocomputer still managed to be connected to an analog device, which was then connected to a powerful personal computer. The information from the biocomputer came in an ocean of terabytes. Everything was read and analyzed. The biocomputer itself could read the entered information and make recommendations. It is not known how, but it was the biocomputer that gave the tip to Elon Musk. 2 days later, the biocomputer gave recommendations on Elon Musk. Watowicz read the interpreted information originally obtained by binary code. A trickle of sweat ran down my back, and I felt suffocated. The phrase was printed on a piece of paper: give us his child, kill his child, give him to us. Watowicz pulled back his tie and unbuttoned his shirt. Tudor, 2002, Washington. The sentence was carried out. The subject is Nevada Musk, age 12 weeks. Justine Musk's mother's breasts were treated with nanopoison during a SPA visit. Lower-level performers, SPA owner, massage therapist, have been eliminated. Order to John Watowicz. As soon as possible, reinstruct the 1.01 Elon Musk personnel, put pressure, and persuade them to total loyalty, and give an explanation on the incident with Nevada Musk. If refused, liquidate it. The Open Sky project should be frozen in case of liquidation of personnel 1.01, while maintaining all capacities in full readiness until the next candidate is selected by the curator. Today we have revealed to you only a part of the information about the aliens. There is much more data about their activities on Earth. On our channel, we will reveal all the secrets and evidence of their presence. Subscribe to the channel and send me your stories related to aliens by email. You will find contacts in the About the Channel section. Together, we will force the authorities of all countries to disclose all the information they have. After all, people should know the truth.